Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to do something different. And normally I go over free software, but today I'm talking about a paid program called Scrivener, and it's a game changer. Now, I'm JD Goff. I'm author of The Rune That Binds, The Undying Night, and The Whisper of God, as well as the forthcoming The Rune That Sunders, which is out next year, early 2026. And today we're diving into one of the most powerful tools for novelists, Scrivener. If you're a fiction writer, you probably sometimes feel overwhelmed by all the disorganized notes and endless Word documents you use to track your characters, like settings, magic systems, world building. Maybe you have a scrap of paper stuffed into a drawer or box somewhere, or just trying to figure out how to get your story from your brain into the book. And all of this complexity of writing an epic fantasy novel had me turn to Microsoft OneNote, which I've used for years, but it has some disadvantages. So enter Scrivener. If you've ever wanted to use Scrivener, but it seemed overwhelming, this video is for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how to use Scrivener from start to finish, to how to plot and outline your novel, how to write it, and then export it as a professional EPUB or PDF file that's ready for upload to Amazon or Ingram Spark. Now, because it's a very sophisticated program, I'm just focusing on the basics to start and finish the product. That's going from importing your chapters, organizing, plotting, planning, and then exporting them to a book you can upload to, like I said, Amazon or Ingram Spark. I'll touch on a few configuration settings to kind of make it useful and streamline things, but this isn't going to be a deep dive. It's my typical start to finish approach. I'm using the latest version as of 2025. That's Scrivener 3 for Mac and Windows, but the basics apply to the operating system, either one. I'm on PC, it'll work for Mac as well. If you haven't grabbed it yet, pause the video now, head down to literatureandlatte.com for a free trial. The link is down below. Now, the free trial is pretty cool. What it does is it allows you to have 30 free days. Now, it's not consecutive days, so it's not a month, it's 30 days of you using it. So that means if you opened it today and then you had to go and take care of stuff for a week and then came back a week later and opened it, that's 2 days. It's not 7 or 8 days. It's not contiguous. It's each time you open it counts as a day. All right. So let's kind of talk about how to set up the project and how to go over your manuscript and get you where you need to be. So first things first, I'm assuming you've downloaded it and installed it by now. And if you haven't, like I said, pause the video and we'll get into it. But first things first, why Scrivener? Now, unlike a basic word processor, Scrivener is built for long form novels. It lets you break your book into bite sized scenes or chapters so you can store your research right inside your project and rearrange everything without having to copy and paste and deal with a bunch of Word documents for characters and settings. And you can make your notes right in the manuscript. Plus, it's got a digital corkboard that lets you move chapters and scenes around so that you can plot and organize your story. The license allows you to have it on multiple computers, though not across platforms. So if you have a Windows PC and a Mac notebook, for instance, you'd need two licenses. But if it's on the same operating system, Mac and Mac or Windows and Windows, one license will run on multiple computers. Now, a quick disclaimer, this is a hands-on tutorial, so pause and follow along if you can. We'll cover setup, plotting, writing, and export, as well as importing your files if you've written it in something like Microsoft Word. And by the end, you should have the confidence to tackle your next project. If you're new, Scrivener is probably going to seem intimidating at first, but stick with me. I promise it's a game changer, and I'm going to show you what you need to know, just the basics, in order to dive in and write your next project. So let's start right here with the basic, and that's creating your novel. Let me go ahead and open the program here real fast. Okay, so what we have here is the opening screen of Scrivener. This is the program. This is what your first splash screen is going to look like. And when you get in here, the first thing you're going to notice, of course, is that you have help files. And so you have the interactive tutorial, you have the Scrivener user manual, and then you have the video tutorials. Now, talking about the bottom buttons, you have at the bottom, you have an options button where you can configure this screen right here. It doesn't configure the whole program, and you can turn some things on and off, like hide the help guides, which I don't recommend doing. Then you have the option to open recent files that you've worked with. And then you can also open existing projects, which will just take you to your file explorer and allow you to kind of look for a file that you've already got. And then you can open one of these up here. So the navigation pane is on the left-hand side, and I've already talked about the getting started section, but you have all these other sections. All this basically is the different templates that are available. Hit the all button, it shows you everything. But we're not going to mess with all of the templates. We're going to actually go to fiction and pick novel. And so select the template category that you want to work with. And like I said, we're using fiction. And then we're going to just select the template we want, come down here and hit create. Now it's going to give you an option to uh, save the file, call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it delete me. And then you said, okay, and you're in. It actually opens it up for you, and you'll see the main screen, which I'm going to blow up here. So the novel template creates a project that has sections for manuscript, chapters, scenes, characters, places, front matter, that's your copyright, dedication, stuff like that. And the front matter also lays out information for 3 types of output. And the 3 types that we're looking at here are manuscript format. So if you want to submit to an editor or a publisher, it'll produce a manuscript that's uh, compliant with submission guidelines for most publishers. And then if you want to publish an ebook or a paperback, it has the front matter for that. And that's going to be things like your table of contents and your dedication, things like that. You have a notes section that you can take notes on your project. And then you have a research section where you can research the topic that you're writing on or research things. So when I wrote The Rune That Binds, I needed to understand runes a little bit better and understand uh, Iron Age metallurgical techniques and science. Then you have your template sheets. I'm going to talk more about all this later. And then, of course, you have the trash bin down on the left-hand side. So the thing you want to think about in relation to this is your navigation pane. They call it the binder, but it's your navigation pane. Now, when you first open a project, you're going to notice you have a guide sheet that tells you how to use the template that you're currently in to produce your book. And so that's really helpful. I would not delete that. It's at the very top where it says novel format. And that's your guide sheet that walks you through the process and all the different steps to go from start to finish. Then across the top, we have our text menus, and they are file, edit, insert, view, navigate, project, documents, format, window, and help. I'm going to talk about each of these individually. We're not going to use all of them, but there's a few that we will use, and I'll show you those when we get to them. Then right below that, we have the icons or the quick menu, and we have icons for view options, hide and reveal binder. And so the view options right here, you can see this. It just gives you different things. When you toggle these, it turns these things on. If there's a checkbox next to it, it's on. You can see the format bar right here. If I toggle that off, it goes away. So this just turns things on. And then right next to that, you have the hide and reveal button for the binder, which is this left navigation pane. Turns it on, turns it off. The microphone is a text to speech tool that isn't really that good. So I use other things, but if in a pinch, it'll do the job for you. Then you have search, you have add elements, and I'll talk more about that later. You have your trash bin. When you have something selected and you click on it, it deletes it and puts it down here in the trash bin. You have an insert option, and you have quick references, and then you have your stats. I'm going to talk about all of these in more detail in a little bit. So there is one thing that we're going to do to make this work the way you want to, and that is we're going to configure one aspect, because this caused me a lot of grief when I first started using it. Uh, it has an autocorrect misspelled words function that kept autocorrecting unique names of characters into common words. So my main character's name is Sep, S-E-P, and it would keep changing him to September, I think. It just kept messing with my writing process, and I'd have to stop, and I couldn't fix it. Every time I typed it in correctly, it would automatically correct it to what it thought it should be. So we're gonna go into File and down to Options, and then we're gonna go over here to Corrections, and then to Spelling. And I've already got it turned off in mine, but you wanna toggle this right here where it says Correct Spelling Errors as you type. You wanna toggle that off, and if you don't do that, it's going to fix any unique spellings that you have into more common words, and you probably don't want that, especially if you're writing fiction. So once you do that, just hit apply and then okay, and you shouldn't have that problem. Now, over on the left-hand side, we're going to talk about plotting and planning now. The first thing that I would say is let's go over here, and you've got your manuscript, and I would rename it after your book. And you do that just by double clicking on it. And I'm going to name mine The Rune That Binds, and then hit enter. That's all you have to do. Pretty straightforward. And everything in here is the book that you're working on. So let's talk about the binder. This is just, I've already done a real quick flyby, but let's talk about the binder, the navigation pane. It contains everything in your project. So you want to think of it as like the file explorer for your book. And in here, you can navigate to open your manuscript, chapters, and scenes right here. So there's my chapters and there's my scene. I only have one of each because it's a template. You can also go down and you can look at your characters. So if you've got characters in here, there's none in here because, again, a template, so it doesn't have anything. You can also go and look at, like I said, front matter, your notes, your research, all of that's in there in here. And just navigate to them through this. Think of it as they call it the binder. It's just your navigation pane. All right, now you have 4 basic file types inside of Scrivener. There's some additional things you can do, but I'm not going to go into those. You have your text file, which is this right here. This is a scene. The text file is just that, something you write on. By the way, I'm going to turn my ruler back on. So I'm going to come over here to the view, and I'm going to turn on the format bar and turn on the ruler. In here now, I am going to just type a couple of things, just like it was a dark and stormy night. And this is where I write my book. This is my scene. Now, this could be a chapter as well, depending on whether you're a plotter or a pantser, but this would be, say, chapter 1. So that would be my first chapter right there. And then this is my first scene. Pretty straightforward. So that's a text file. This is a folder. The other thing you have are character sketches. So these are my character sketches. And then you have setting sketches or places. This is called places, but it's a setting. How you create new folders, new scenes, all that sort of thing down here is at the very bottom, you have plus signs. And so the plus sign will add a new text file, and then the folder will create a new folder. And that's how you do that. So those are your 4 basic things. You can also add existing files or web pages. Your text files are going to be where you write your story. Like I said, you can set folders to be chapters and text for scenes, or you can make each chapter without scenes by setting text files instead of folders for your chapters. Display on the right shows the corkboard by default, but you can change the view using the view buttons, which I'll talk more about later. All right, let's talk about characters real fast. So I'm down here in my characters. Let's click on that. So here in the characters, this is where you're going to create and track your characters' biographies. You can add a new character by clicking on the character section in the binder and then click on the plus sign to add a new text field. Now you can do it up here and just do a new text field here, or come down here at the bottom and you can do it from here as well. And this will be populated by the character template under the template sheet right down here. So let's go ahead and open that character. You can open the character by coming over to the navigation pane and expanding the character folder, and you'll see my character sketch in there, and then click on it. You can also, just from the corkboard, now I went up a level by clicking on the character folder and it brought me up a level, but I can double click on the icon right next to the name. And that gives me my character sketch. Now I want my character to have a name, so I'm just going to call him Bob. And that's the character's name. Now it doesn't change it in here, so I'd have to change that in here as well. And so I'm creating my character. Pretty straightforward, not that complicated. This is going to be populated, like I said, by the characters template and the sheets, and you can actually edit and customize these as you need to. So if you want to add additional things like phobias. Okay, so your character settings and templates, you can create your templates here and customize them right down here. You want to branch that out, and you'll see in here I have character sketch and a setting sketch. So if I go into the settings sketch, which I'm going to click on right here, this is my template and I can add things to it. I can expand it. So one of the things that you'll have in here is you've got sensory identifiers. So smell, sight, and sound. And most authors, when they're first starting out, will focus on sight. They might have sound in there, but when they're describing a scene or a setting, that's all they touch on. But you have 5 senses, and to immerse your reader into your story, you wanna try to engage all 5 senses. Obviously, you can't do that in real life, so you want to engage their imagination to elicit something in there that relates to the 5 senses, and it puts them in the story. So if you've ever been to the ocean, you know that the air has a smell to it, the ocean, and depending on where you go, it's pleasant or unpleasant. I've been to some pretty rank smelling beaches. But there's also a taste in the air. If you open your mouth, you can taste the ocean, that salt tang. And so it's definitely part of the setting, and you should put that in there. And if you're walking barefoot, you're going to feel the sand between your toes. That's tactile. That's your fifth sensation. So you have sight, you have sound, you have taste, you have so you have smell, and then you also have the feel of the scene, the sand between your toes, right? Or the cold wind on your skin. You want to immerse them as much as possible. So what I would do is in here, I would add those additional elements into the so there's touch, and then we'll do taste. And because I've added those in here now, when I come up into the places and I add a new place setting and open it up, you see I have smell, touch, taste. So I've added all 5 senses in there. Now I may not have those in every single scene. Sometimes there's just maybe be sight and sound. Sometimes there might be smell. Sometimes it might be all 5. But now I've got that in my template. So you can edit the template to suit your needs. And once you customize the sheets, you create you do the same thing for the character and you create it, it'll have those changes in there, which is kind of nice. Okay. Let's talk about the view settings. I'm going to go in here to corkboard real fast. Let me come up here to this. So in the corkboard, we're going to use the view setting from the text menu up here, and you're going to click on that. What we're going to do is we're going to make some changes here to make the corkboard more user friendly. The first thing we're going to do is go down to view. We're going to come down to the corkboard options, and we're going to turn on the status stamps. Now you're not seeing anything yet, but you will shortly. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we are going to go back down to the corkboard options and we're going to turn on card numbers. And so now you'll see I have a number on my card, and as I add additional scenes, they're all numbered. Okay. Now the advantage of having these things in there when you add those is if I want to apply a status to these scenes, or if these are going to be my chapters, and I'll show you how to use files as chapters when I import my book. But you can right click on here and you can apply the status. And let's say this is my first draft. And because I've got those turned on, I can see that now at a glance. I can kind of see where the status of the card or that chapter or that scene is at. The other thing we're going to do in view is we're going to turn on the inspector. So go up to view and you're going to go down to inspector and you're going to turn that on. And over here on the left-hand side now, you'll see you have an inspector. And what this does is for each one of your scenes or your chapters, it shows you the synopsis and it shows you notes for that. So that's very useful. And I'll show you more about that here in a little bit. So I'm going to grab just the first few paragraphs from my first chapter of my first book, just to have something in there. And I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to put in the first few. Let's zoom in. Okay, so I've put in the first few paragraphs from my book. And if I go up a level, right here by going up like that, or just clicking on the chapter container, the folder up here, you'll see now it's got the first few sentences in there. Now, that's not the summary. So even if you don't put a summary or a synopsis of your scene or your chapter in there, you'll be able to look at the card. I can still see the first few sentences of the chapter as a synopsis. Now, if I want to synopsize it, all I have to do is either double click on the card and write my synopsis here. And so that's my synopsis. Now, when I click away from that, you'll see it shows the synopsis, not the first few sentences. And when I click on it, my synopsis shows up over here. I can also take notes or put any ideas that I have about that chapter or that scene that I'm working on over here, and they are tied to that particular scene, this particular card right here. So that's pretty cool. Now, when you're in a character sketch document, it's a little bit different. Let's go over to character sketch. I've got Bob here, and you'll see I don't have a synopsis. What I have is the ability to bring in an image, and bringing in an image is actually really simple. So if you want to know what your character looks like and you've got an image to show him, so I can bring this in over here, and let's say I'm going to bring this image in and just drop it right there. But now I have an image of my character. So I've got that, and I can put some notes in here that might summarize something related to the character, but I've got his biography. So that's how the character sketch text file works. It's a little bit different. Synopsis here, image there. Now let's talk about importing your book, because this may be something you've already done. Maybe you've already written it in Google Docs or you've written it in Microsoft Word, and you want to import an entire book and then begin working on that first draft, organizing, shifting things around, or maybe just kind of take all your notes and everything from multiple documents. But you've got your chapters. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's actually pretty easy. First, you're going to need to set up your Word document, and you'll need to add the image to your front matter over here. So if I go into my ebook front matter, you'll see I only have this right here. Let me expand this a little bit. There's my cover, and that's obviously not the cover of my book. So I'll need to bring in the cover of my book, and it's actually very, very easy. We're going to do the same thing we did before. So I'm going to come up here real fast, go to my desktop, and I'm going to go to my media files. And there's my book cover right there. And I'm just going to drag it in right over there. Now you'll get this pop up saying, hey, if you're importing a text file, it's going to be converted to RTF for editing purposes, but I'm not worried about that. You can toggle this so it doesn't show the message again. So I'm just going to hit OK. And now I've got my book cover over there, and you can see it right there. It's that simple. So that's the setup that you want to do for importing your book and making sure that you've got the right cover for your book for when you eventually get to the point that you export it to create a PDF or an EPUB file for upload. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to configure our file correctly in Microsoft Word. So let me go ahead and do that real fast. Give me 1 second. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick your title right here, and you're going to turn it to a heading. And that way, when you import it, Scrivener knows it's a chapter. And so what we need to do is, in order to make sure everything's working correctly, we're going to go over to View, and we're going to click on that in Word, and then turn on the navigation pane. And you'll see my first chapter right here now shows up in the navigation pane. This will show you everything that has a title associated with it, title, but header 1. And we scroll down here to my second one. There's silence. And I got to go back to home, and then I hit heading 1 there, and you see it shows up over on the left-hand side. And you're going to do that for all of the chapter headings in your book. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real fast. So now I've got it all done right here. You can see everything has been set up like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. You can't import it if the file's open. So you save it, close it. You go up to File, and then you're going to come down to Import right here, and you're going to import and split. It's that simple. So File, Import, import and split. And it's going to pop up a window that you're going to browse to where your document is at, which is going to be here for me. And there it is right there. And then open that up. It'll take a second. Once that's done, you want to make sure you have split using document outline structure, which is the default, and then just hit import. Okay, yeah, I did something dumb. And this is a good mistake. I didn't realize it's going to import it into the container where you're at. And so it did bring in my entire book right here. You can see right there, there's my entire book. You got to make sure you're in the right place. So you can just move this. This is not the end of the world. I can move this up here and drop it under here in the manuscript right there. So I can definitely get it in there. Now it's in there, so it's not the end of the world. Just make sure you've got the right folder you want to import it into selected, and then you'll be fine. So this right here, I'm going to get rid of these scenes because I don't need those. And you can select multiple things just by clicking one, going down and holding the shift key and clicking the other one. So right up here, I click on this, go down here, hold the shift key, and it'll select all of them. And I'm just going to hit the delete bucket up here, and that puts it into the trash. It's not gone. You don't have to worry about that. There's my files. I would not empty this until you know your book is ready to go, or until you're positive that these can be gotten rid of. And it's just a matter of coming in here and right clicking on it, and you can say delete, and then it's gone forever once you do that. Okay, so I've got my book up here. It's a little weird because it's under the dedication folder, which I don't want it to be under. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually rename this to chapters. These are my chapters. And then I'm actually going to take all of these and I'm going to move them into chapters. You can see how it highlights that right there. Now, there's all my chapters. This is my dedication, which is actually going to get moved down over here. I'm going to delete this one. All right, once your import is complete, you're going to see the chapter appear under chapter folders, and the corkboard will show a card for each chapter, and you can see it right there. Until you add a summary, the card's going to show you the first few sentences of the chapter. The index cards are your chapters for me, because this is how I wrote it. You could do each chapter as a folder and then have the index cards be scenes, but I didn't write my book that way. In fact, if you come in here and you scroll down, you'll see there's my first scene right there. There's my break for my first scene. I could do that and turn these into scenes if I wanted to. That's a lot more work than I want to, but I could certainly do that by adding index chapters. And if I wanted to, I could convert all of these into a folder. So I could actually say, let's actually convert this to a folder. And that turns it into a folder. And then I could copy in here and I could just grab this first section right here, copy it, click on my folder right here, and then I could create a scene right here, and then go into my scene, and I could copy that, what I did in here. There's my first scene. So I could definitely do it that way, but I'm not going to, because that's a lot of work to do, because I have usually 2 or 3 scenes per chapter. Some only have 1. And I'm fine. You don't have to have scenes unless you want them. So it's okay if you don't. Oh, I accidentally deleted. This is cool. So I accidentally deleted my first chapter and I meant to delete this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to my trash bin and I'm going to move it to my manuscript, The Rune That Binds, into chapters. So you see how fast it was to just get it back where it needs to go. Now it's not at the top, so I do have to kind of move it up to the top. And there it is right there. I want to delete that. And then let's go ahead and hit delete there. And then I'm going to change this back right click on it, and I'm going to convert it to a file. Now I'm back to where I was before, and you can see no harm, no foul. So you can undo your mistakes. It's pretty easy to do. You can assign them statuses. So let me go up a level. Again, I can go up to a level by clicking on the chapter here, or I can go up a level by using these navigation arrows here. If I go down, it just takes me to the next chapter. See how that works. And as I go up, it eventually takes me to the top right there. All right, so let's go into my corkboard, and I can apply statuses. So I come in here, make this status right here. We're going to make this done. So I've finished with that. This is currently in progress. This one is a revised draft, and I can just kind of flag these, and I can at a glance know which one is which. Now, let's say the statuses that I have don't necessarily match what I want. All I have to do is come down here in status and hit edit, and then I can add additional statuses. Like maybe I want to rewrite this chapter. I don't like it. So I'm going to rewrite, and I'm going to change this status to rewrite. And now I've got visual cues or the status of what I want to have done. So in addition to the corkboard view, you have the edit view, which is when you actually go into the chapter. So you pick a card and you just go into it. Now you're in edit view. There is an option to toggle this to page view, and you just come over here and you click on this right here, and that changes it to kind of, you see one individual page at a time. So whatever your preference is, toggling that on and off changes how that view works. You also have an outline view, which kind of shows everything in a spreadsheet. Now, when you're in a single document, it doesn't show anything, but if I go up to chapters here on the left-hand side in the navigation or binder and click on that, and then I go to the outline view, you'll see it kind of shows it as a spreadsheet, which is kind of nice. You can kind of see everything where it's at. You can see the status of it. You can see what it is. Now, these all show as being scenes, and I know they're not. So I do want to make them all show up as chapters. So what I can do is I can either come in here and go back to my corkboard and select everything this way, and then right click on it and go to section type and make them all chapters. I can do the same thing in here by clicking on that, going down to the bottom, right clicking, section type, chapter. It's the exact same thing. And you'll see they're all chapters now. Because that's in my book, those are all chapters. Let's see, what else can we talk about in here? The overview, which displays all your chapters and scenes as one document. So the overview is what's called scrivenings. And basically, when I'm in the overview mode over here, and I click on this, it's going to compile everything and show me everything as one single document. Let's scroll through this real fast. This is a long chapter. There's my second chapter, and there's the line. You can see the line that demarks it. And so you can go through your entire book this way and just read it from start to finish. And those just that line right there demarks it. Now, you'll probably have a dashed line, and you can change that just by going into the options, go to file, go to options, and under appearance and under scrivenings, that's what it's called, under scrivenings. I call it overview, but it's scrivenings. You'll go in there and pick what you want, a dashed line or a divider. So I picked the divider because I liked it better, but you can use a dashed line and you'll see it right there. I prefer the divider. So that's a little thing you can do right there if you want. Okay, and changing views is pretty simple. You just, this is what this little row of buttons right here is. So this is the scrivenings or the overview. This will show you the corkboard. This will show you the outline. And you can move back and forth between them fairly easily, whatever works best for you. I like the corkboard because it gives me kind of a high level view, but you may prefer this because it gives you a little bit more information. It shows you your status. It shows you your labels, and you can add labels. The labels are kind of generic right now. If you look at your labels, it's just red, orange, yellow. You can edit them and you can change them to whatever you want. I haven't really figured out a use for them yet, but that option is available for you. But those are your different views, and that's how you toggle through them. I already talked about how you can create a synopsis for each chapter as an index card. You can change the title by double clicking up here and just typing in what you want and just hit enter. If you want to add a synopsis, just double click on the index card. By the way, your index cards probably don't have these lines. If you want to add the lines to it again, this is just a real simple thing, file, options, and you can play with all this. I'm not going to mess with it, but under appearance, index cards, show text lines, that's how you turn them on. I'll leave them off so it looks like yours. But just come in here and you can put in your synopsis in here. Not a great synopsis. You'd want to go into more detail about what the chapter is about, obviously, but I'm just showing you how to do it. You can also just do it over here as well. And you'll notice as it shows up over here, it shows up over here. So, and as I move through the different chapters, it ties to it. There's the title of my chapter, and I can create the synopsis here as well. So this is the rune that binds. All right. And I can put in notes here for what I want to have happen in the chapter or stuff. I'm writing it. So let's go into the chapter, add more tension. This is too slow paced. I can also add a comment in here. So one of the things that I do sometimes is get my directions messed up. So I'm putting a comment in here and I can just add that comment by clicking over here in the inspector on the comment pane, highlight something, add the comment, and it adds the comment, flags the date and time, make sure this direction is correct. I can add comments to individual words or even whole sections that I want to. I can add footnotes. I can do all of that. So you can kind of see how that works. If I want to get rid of a comment, all I have to do is just click on the comment over here and then hit minus and it's gone. I'm not going to deal with all of these. I'm just showing you some of the cool things that you can do. Dig into it. It's very powerful, especially for a pantser like myself. It's great for plotters, obviously, but for a pantser, I have ideas and to just come in and I'm not working on the chapter yet, but I have an idea for it. I can just come in and I can just drop that note in there so I don't forget it. Uh, Nothing worse than having an idea and then forgetting it. I'll be lying in bed and be aware of this. I'm gonna give you a hack for writing. So if you have an idea while you're lying in bed, don't leave it unannotated. Don't forget to write it down. Have pencil and paper by your notebook, a notebook by your bed, and write it down. Here's why: you will not remember it in the morning, and the reason is how short-term and long-term memory work. When you have an idea for a dialogue or for a character or for a plot or a really cool scene, something like that doesn't stay in your long-term memory because it's formulated in your short-term memory. You fall asleep and it's never transferred from short-term memory to long-term memory because sleep doesn't do that. That doesn't carry that process over and you will forget it. There's no way to recall it. You won't be able to recall it because it was never transferred. So keep a notepad by your bed, and then you don't have to worry about the short-term memory transference failing when you fall asleep. So that's a quick little hack. It has nothing to do with using, well, I guess it does because Scrivener makes that easier to do. I talked about the outline view, so let's talk about that real fast. Again, I'm going to jump into the outline view over here. And the default headings are title, synopsis, label, status, and section type. But you can add additional headings such as word count by going into the view up here. You're going to use this a lot when you're configuring it. So go to view, and you're going to go down to the outliner option. And each one of these is a category that you can add. So I'm going to go ahead and remove label because I don't use it. So label's gone. And then I'm going to add word count. So go to outliner options right here. And I'm just going to go down here to word count and add that. And now my word count's in there as well. And you can change where they're at by left clicking on the header and just dragging it where you want. So I'm just going to put it right here next to the title. And I can see my word count. There's my status. Put it wherever you want. So you can see the organizational control that you have is pretty intense, and you can change your status in here as well. So let's say I finished silence and I'm done with it. I can just come in here, click on that, and I can say this is done. And now when I go to my corkboard view, it's done. And it's just keeps you organized. For me, it helps tighten my writing. I don't spend as much time looking for stuff, trying to remember where I did something, looking for notes or post-it notes that I've written on my desk. Everything's contained in the program. All right. So we're going to talk about compiling and exporting now. Compiling is taking everything that you've put together once you've written your book and you've got everything the way you want. And it's going to allow you to export the book to a PDF for print on demand or an EPUB file for upload to Amazon or Ingram Spark or wherever you want to send it to. So you're going to click on the compile button. There's two places to do it. You can come into file and you just go down to compile here, but there's also a compile button right over here. And when you click on that, it's going to pop up this window. And from the drop-down menu, you're going to select the type of compilation you want. So if you've got print, these are your options for print, but we're going to do EPUB first. So I come down here and I have several options for EPUB, EPUB 2, EPUB 3, and then Kindle ebook for Mobi. Don't do the Kindle ebook. Amazon doesn't support Mobi file uploads anymore, so you'll just pick ebook, EPUB 2 or 3. I recommend 3, and then you'll see it changes over here what you want your options to be. So you have an ebook, an ebook screenplay, or an outline document. We want ebook. All right, so then over here, you have kind of, I'm widen this out so you can kind of get a better view of what things look like. So this just kind of shows you an example of what your EPUB is going to look like. And you can kind of see that right there. Not complicated. I've got my dedication in here and it's pulling it from the front matter. So over here, let me compress these chapters down. So there's my front matter. So it's pulling it from the ebook front matter. And there's my dedication that it's going to pull. So when I come in and I hit that, and you can right there, dedication, and it's pulling it from the section front matter. Then it's got my chapters. Well, I don't want that first chapter to be there. So I'm going to actually turn that off, because if I don't, then I'll have a chapter that has nothing in it. It's just that chapter. I could just move all of those chapters up a level and that would solve that problem, but I'm not going to do that. Okay. Just going to put out the front matter from the ebook. And so don't hit compile yet, but this is just making sure that everything you want to be in there, all your chapters are in there. And then you're going to come over to this icon up here. This is your metadata. This is going to be the title of your book, any authors that you have. So this is published under Jonathan Goff, not JD Goff, though I have attached JD Goff to it at Amazon. Any contributors, put in your copyright date and time. You can come down here and choose what you want it to be, year, month, and date. And it's going to put in today's date, but you can edit it and you can change the format. And probably that's all you need is copyright 2025. But you'll fill out that information. Then you're going to click over here to the gear. Now, you'll remember I was writing and I added a comment, and we don't want the comment to show up in the ebook or the print book. So we're going to go and remove those things. So we can choose remove footnotes, we can remove comments, we can remove anything in here. These are the options. You can move strike through. So if part of your editing process is you want to strike out text and put in new text and keep the old text in case you want to go back to it, so you just strike it out to know that you want to remove it, this will remove it for you automatically. You don't have to go back and delete it. This will just remove it for you automatically. So just go in there, make sure everything looks good. And once you're ready with that, you're going to click over to the next one. And if you're like me, and you have made up names or locations or things like that, and you sometimes misspell them, like I have a race of beings called the Phelan, and it's spelled Feallen, but sometimes I accidentally spell it Faellen. And rather than trying to go and find all of those, I can just go in there and put in what I want the misspelled version to be replaced with, and it'll automatically correct that for me when it compiles the book. Pretty cool. And it saves you a lot of time, really useful tool. So you'll put whatever you want in there. And it's simple. You would just go in here and you would say replace Faellen with Feallen. However you want to do that, and then it'll just be in there. And then you come over here to this next icon once you've got that list created, and it's going to say, hey, what do you want for your cover image? I obviously don't want that for my cover image, so I'm going to choose from the drop down, and I can pick whatever is in there. So I'm going to pick that. There's my cover image. And then the last thing you do down here is your table of contents, and you have a couple of options. So a flat table of contents is just text. You can't tap on it on your e-reader and navigate to the chapter. I like having it a HTML table of contents. That's default. So set that. You can name it what you want. And once you're done and you're ready, you're going to hit compile. Now, it'll take a few moments for it to do this. While it's doing this, it's important for you to have a program that allows you to preview EPUB files if you don't, because you have no idea what this is going to look like. It's not going to give you a preview. So I recommend Calibre. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I'm going to put a link to it down below. It's a free ebook reader and editor. I don't recommend it for editing. A lot of people do, but it's not intuitive. You have to know how to code a little bit. And so it's not really what you want. But once your book is done, you're going to actually go in and you're going to open it inside Calibre. So let's go down here to my documents folder, and I'm going to go to my ebooks. And there's my book. So you can see right now, it's got the right cover. That's good. That's what we wanted, to have the right cover. There's my author information. Everything's there. And then when I come in here and open it, it'll take a second for it to open. There's my dedication. Looks good. I can scroll through chapter 1. Doesn't look quite the way that I want it to look. So my first night here isn't the way I want it to look. Chapter 1's fine, but I need my titles in there. And so I'm going to have to go back and change it. And you can see why it's important to have a tool like Calibre that allows you to see what the finished product looks like, so you know it looks good before you upload it. So I'm going to go back and make some changes. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this too. Let's remove that book. What I'm trying to do is use Scrivener to reproduce what my book looks like from here. So this is the book that I use, that I created using Atticus, and you'll see what it looks like here. So I'm trying to create something similar to this. So there's my book right there, my dedication. I do have a flat table of contents that I need to fix, but I'm trying to get something that looks similar to this using Scrivener. I'm not going to be able to. I won't be able to have the drop cap and other things like that, but I can get it close. So now that I've got that, I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to fix some things in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is open this, and I'm going to change this. All right. So I'm going to just highlight it, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change it to black. Looks good. I want this to also be centered. So I'm going to hit center, and then I can change the size of it by going in here, just like this. I can do all of those things, or I can just go in here and I can just pick a style, and I can say I want this to be a title. Make sure it's still centered right there like that. And if I want to, just remember I had the artwork up there. I can go in here and I can click on this, and I'm just going to hit insert right here, and I'm going to go image from file. I need to go get that real fast. There's my imagery, hound. So there's my hound, and I want him looking to the left. All right. He's pretty big. So I'm going to scroll out, hold the control key and roll your mouse down, and that'll scroll out. He's way too big. So I'm going to click on him, and then I'm going to resize him appropriate for my book. Don't worry, this is not what you see is what you get. So as I zoom in, the text kind of starts lining up. I think he's still a little too big, so I'm going to make him a little bit smaller. All right. So there's that. Looks okay to me. I think I'm all right with that. Let's see how it looks when we compile. I'm going to go back and hit compile again by clicking on this button right here. Make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. I've got chapters turned off because I don't need that additional chapter in there. Let's check my metadata is still right. I've got removing comments, my spell checking. It should remember everything from the first successful compile. So it looks good to me. My table of contents is HTML. So let's hit compile. But this is faster than trying to do it in Kindle Create. You can see it would take me several hours to do it in Kindle Create, and you saw right here, it did it in a matter of seconds. And then let's go ahead and open our book. And again, everything looks good. Let's go in and see how the book actually looks on the inside. Now, I only changed one chapter, so bear that in mind. I only changed the first chapter. The others won't have been changed. You'd have to go in and change each one of them. So if I go here to chapter 1, there it is. It looks good. I have something very similar to what I created with Atticus, and I'm very happy with it. And like I said, chapter 2 is not going to have that because I didn't make the changes there, but I can make those changes easy enough. Very, very easy to do. I'm going to show you real fast now how to do PDF. It's no different. It's going to be basically the same. It's just what you choose. So you go to compile. You're going to go into PDF, and then you're going to go down and pick your trim size, which should be 6 by 9. That's the most standard one. So pick 6 by 9. And once you've got that selected, you're going to go through and make sure that all of your other stuff is right. It should be the same. Most of the things are not going to be changed too much. You have your chapters right here. Everything is as it should be. You have the front matter is different because it's a print book. Check on your author information over here, and you can see it's what it's supposed to be. This is just the same thing. We're going to remove the comments. Remember, we put a comment in there, so it's going to remove the comment. And then this is going to replace your stuff. Once you've got that in there, let it go ahead and compile. And once it's done compiling, we're going to go and open the book and see what it looks like. And let's go look at it, see how it looks. Now, I recommend getting Adobe Reader or Microsoft Edge because it allows you to see the actual layout. If you're using Chrome, it doesn't let you see the actual layout of your book. So there's my rune that binds right there. I'm going to open it. And inside Adobe Reader, which you can see Edge is powered by Adobe Acrobat. So get Adobe Reader. I'll put a link to it down below. There's my book. The reason why is because you can come in here and you can set it to 2 pages and then show the cover page separately. It's done a little bit different in Adobe Reader, but you can do the same thing. And this is going to give you my layout the way it's supposed to look. So when you open a book, your odd number pages 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 will be on the right side. Your even numbers will be on the left side. And so my first page should be the title page, and it's right there. And you can kind of see I have a book that looks good. There's chapter 1 right there, First Night. And again, it's only going to show it here on the first chapter because I didn't do anything with the second, third, fourth. But if you just go in and do that on all of your chapters, you're going to have a decent looking book. With other software that's designed more specifically heavy on the layout and design, which Scrivener isn't. It's more on writing, plotting, and organizing with limited layout and design and publication functionality. But if I come in here and I use a program that actually has more sophisticated layout and design, I can get a lot more creative with my layout and design. So you can kind of see in here, I've got a map that I was able to insert. And you could do that in Scrivener too. I've got a more unique looking title page. There's my manuscript. I just have more control over how the book looks stylistically on the interior. But if you look at the two, this is not a bad looking book. It'll do the job. It's $60, and that $60 gets you unlimited licenses for as many devices as you want to install it on. Be honest, don't share it with friends and whatnot like that. Obviously, do the right thing. You want to get paid for your work. They should get paid for their work. But yeah, if you have 3 different computers that you write on, you could have it on 3 different computers, which is really pretty cool. And it does all the stuff that I just showed you. So you can, from start to finish, produce a decent looking book. And I just realized I have headphones on today. I don't know why I have headphones on. I was doing some stuff earlier. It's messed up my hair. But It's going to give you everything that you need. I'm going to put the links to everything down below, guys. The big thing that I want you to take away from it is these tools like Scrivener are multifunction tools. They're going to be stronger with some things than other things. Where Scrivener's strong with is plotting and planning your book out. It's kind of things that it does really well and things that it does adequately. I kind of think of like a Swiss Army knife. I can build an IKEA cabinet with my Swiss Army knife, but I wouldn't want to. I'd rather use the right tools for the job. But in a pinch, it'll get everything done that I need to have done. So Scrivener is like that. And what it does well, it does very well. And that's plotting and organizing and planning things out and just basically getting the first draft written. And the other things it does as ancillary benefits, it does adequately, but I would probably use another tool to do the final output. So that's Scrivener in a nutshell. I didn't do a deep dive. There's a lot more you can do. I really encourage you to check out the videos that are in that help file on the opening screen when you first get in there and really dive deep into it. It's a very powerful program for getting your book from start to finish written, plotting, organizing out, making sure everything's tight, and keeping you on task, which I really, really like. Also, if you're interested in doing Novel November, I'm putting a link to that down below, putting a link to my books so that if you are interested in dark fantasy, you can go check them out. Or if you're not, you can forward them on to a friend or family member who is. My next video is going to actually be on a Scrivener clone called Manuscript, Manuskript, which does a lot of the same things that Scrivener does, but it's free. So if you want to save yourself $60, at any rate, guys, that's all I have for you. Hit the subscribe and like button down below, and I will talk to you later.